That's why I left Amazon. I don't want to be in big tech because things just move too slowly, and I'm not sure what I should be focusing on, honestly.
Yeah, it seems like you don't even like coding, honestly. Yeah, so Akil, feel free to go off. Let us know what's your background. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. So my name is Akhil, and I actually did my undergrad in CS back in India. And right out of college, I joined Amazon in AWS. I worked there for around 2 years. Honestly, I found it really boring. So I just came to the University of Chicago to do my master's in data analytics and machine learning. After completing that, I graduated this December. So I got a job at a startup, which is basically fintech plus AI. And yeah, I'm going to be joining there in February. But I'm trying to call in because when I first joined U Chicago, like I was really interested in quant and C++ plus plus and stuff. So I started off following the projects you had. So I kind of always have been following your videos.
I want to start asking some questions, if that's okay, about like your career trajectory and things along that nature.
Sure.
Okay. You mentioned you want companies to reach out to you, and I think that's a really good, valiant goal because a lot of people are dependent on other companies reaching out to them, and so they put themselves in the pipeline with 1,000 other candidates that all apply on LinkedIn Easy Apply. So I guess my question to you is, what sort of projects have you built that you can highlight to employers, whether that's on Twitter or maybe you make a cool reel about it and have that go viral? What sort of projects have you built so far?
Yeah, honestly, most of my projects or internships or experiences are just affiliated with organizations. So like I'm doing work with people. So like when I got this job at the startup, so they mentioned that the competitive programming part of my profile stood out to them, and also the fact that I've worked on big projects. So I was working with a professor in the radiology department as an internship over here, and basically I I was executing the whole software development lifecycle for his application, which was to be built in Flutter. So Flutter is a framework I had never heard of before, but I feel that I'm really good at ramping up on technologies and building stuff from scratch because, like in the end, it's just fundamentals. Languages keep changing.
I get that, and I get the fact that you built something for an prospective employer. But have you built anything yourself that you find impressive or useful that you can highlight to somebody that say, hey, like for example, game devs build games, they build indie games, and they can use that and publish it on Twitter or Instagram and build a following, or maybe they use that in order to highlight their skill set to actual prospective companies. Have you done anything along those lines?
Yeah, so when I got hired for Amazon a year before that, I created this project with a team of 5 other people. It was basically an Android application where you can, so it was basically for forest rangers in areas of low or no internet. So they could log data. This was back in my undergrad. They could log data and then transmit it back as soon as they get a bit of internet, but it would work when there's a GPS signal but no internet as well. So we won the first prize in the hackathon for that nationally. That was one of the big projects that stood out for me. But most of my time at Amazon is like it's so frustrating. You don't have time, after work. So most of my projects are just within the org. And after coming to U Chicago, class projects, I did create an order book in Python.
Class projects, simple
And
stuff like that don't count.
yeah, okay, yeah. I guess
Where do you want to go? If you can pick to go anywhere, where would you want to go?
I'm really excited about the startup space, honestly. My end vision goal is that I want to get off the computer. I mean, I like coding, that's fine and good, but I just want to transition out of this because I see myself, I don't know, like leading a company or something, but I'm not even sure how to go down that route. I don't want to do an MBA or stuff, so it's kind of hard for me because I don't have seniors in this space, and that's why I wanted to talk to you. Like maybe you have friends, or how do you think about staying as an individual contributor or ever pivoting out of that?
So today's video sponsor is me with GetCrack.io. Guys, I built GetCrack.io to help people smash the quantitative developer interview, but the platform ended up turning into the premier low-level interview prep platform. Why is that? Because I don't just focus on things like DSA. I look at language knowledge, concurrency, networking, operating systems, design patterns, etc. Now, I don't just have these sorts of questions that are multiple choice or fill in the blank. I also have an entire coding problem section where you can report where you've seen this problem. So, for example, compile time concatenation has been seen at Maven. This example, longest stable window, has been seen at DE Shaw. Not only that, I also built out roadmaps for you guys. So you're not sitting there reading a 650-page book on C++ concurrency. You can actually just navigate to the roadmap, complete it from top to bottom, and then alongside the exact sections that you need to read are accompanying questions, problems, and even quizzes built out just to help you. You can see where you rank and test your skills. Make sure to check it out.
Out of that.
So
That
personally, I love being an individual contributor. I have people in my company that have gone from individual contributors to non IC work, so they're managers, etc. So they lead the team, but they have coding background. They just don't necessarily actually contribute themselves. The reason I like being an individual contributor more is because your work is seen more, your impact is more tangible. Whereby if you're just some like Scrum Master dude that's sitting there with your coffee, nobody really knows what you're doing.
Yeah, I
So
want to break out of both of those mentalities. Like, I don't want to be working like 9 to 5. I don't know how to explain this, but it just feels like a vicious cycle. When I was back in Amazon, maybe this is skewed because I've just seen one company's culture, but it's like work never ends, and all of these people just come at lunch and they're discussing the next thing they want to work on, and I just didn't really vibe with that, honestly.
do they
I-
do they like just do yoga for half the day and then they like play Counter Strike and then they're actually coding like 30 minutes a day? What's the Amazon culture like?
Amazon culture is really day one mentality. I mean, everyone hears that, but it's sometimes it's kind of overwhelming to new grads because they don't really know what to expect when they're entering the industry. They're all filled with excitement and motivation, and it's really easy to get burnt up. I felt it myself. And some of the teams, it's kind of like luck based. You're either going to be in a good team, obviously, or a bad team. And what I mean by good or bad is like the on-call frequency. So there's this concept of on-call where you're the owner of whatever code you write, which kind of makes sense, but other companies don't necessarily do that. So, for example, at my team, so my team was in AWS and we worked in Amazon Go. So it's these stores where you have these cameras on the ceiling and you're basically automatically tracking customers picking up items. Since all of these stores are located in the US and our team was in India, whenever the code would like get blown up, it would happen in 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. and and my pager's ringing and work-life balance then goes out of the window. But
So
yeah,
so
go ahead.
everybody sells. So you're saying that everybody in school sells Amazon and FAANG as this like panacea of amazing tech and gods, and everybody's cracked, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be so amazing and fun. But then when you get there, you just die,
Uh,
like
I
die
mean, there's no
inside.
black and white answer, honestly. But there are people who are good at coasting in big tech companies, and then there are people who kind of get burnt up really quickly. So there are PMs and engineering managers who basically don't do a lot for what they're earning. There isn't really a lot of time to like pinpoint these people. Yeah, I really like this blog by a guy called Sean Godek. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he basically categorizes programmers in four different categories, and it's quite accurate. I was going about it the last few weeks, but
I see.
yeah, there it's a whole spectrum basically. Yeah.
Okay. And so you said you would say your work at Amazon was not that interesting. Why is that?
So in my undergrad, I was really interested in computer vision, and I did internships and research assistant posts related to that. So when I got the opportunity to join Amazon Go, which I thought was going to be computer vision, I was really excited. I'm like, wow, this is my dream. I'm going to work on computer vision. And then I go over there and I realized that the people who are actually writing the computer vision algorithms are based in Israel. They're PhD people, or they're in the US. They're these totally cracked PhD guys from China or India, I don't know from where. And the actual things that I'm doing is just like sending requests to their algorithm, getting the responses, and my service is basically the orchestrator for the organization. So it's not exactly what I had in mind, and yeah, that was part of the reason why I wanted to move out from there. And I also felt that when my family would ask me like, "What's OpenAI doing? What's ChatGPT?" I'm like, I don't know. It's something. It's magic. So I thought I should go and get a master's and understand what it's doing. But I'm just looking at the pace of how OpenAI is releasing stuff. I don't think I can ever match that, honestly, as a PhD guy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. The impact you probably have is a lot less than you thought you would have had. Okay. In terms of your Python, do you think you're a strong Python developer? Where would you rank yourself?
I don't know. I'm the kind of developer that can get things done. I'm never really interested in knowing the full technical knowledge because languages change. I don't know, 10 years from now, what's going to be obsolete or not. So I don't really care about knowing the exact technical know-how, but I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say maybe five, 4 or 5, five
All
or
right, so you're
six.
like average.
Yeah, I don't really mind about it.
I see. Okay. What version of Python do you use?
I don't know, 3.12, I guess.
3.12? Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about Python?
What's my favorite thing about Python? Like
Favorite feature.
favorite feature. I was watching one of your streams the other day. I remember this, but so I remember like everyone's gonna say this the global interpreter lock that they're adding in the latest version. I guess that was one of the problems we had at Amazon because we had Java and Python interacting together, and we couldn't do the threading thing because of the Python not having the GIL thing. I don't know, honestly. I've never used it, so I can't
You
really say.
you've never used Python?
No, no, no. I never actually tried to handle threading or stuff in Python. That's what I'm
Oh,
trying to
I
say.
think you mean because Python does have the GIL, you couldn't do
Yeah, it
any
does have the
multi-threading.
GL lock.
I see. Okay. How do you isolate packages to a given
How
environment in Python?
how do I isolate anyway? Uh, I don't know. You use some pip-env stuff. Usually, I just create my own environment on Conda or something, and then import the environments, and then you export it. I guess
I see. So a lot of that's been abstracted away from you.
you could say
It,
that.
I see. If you wanted to upgrade a pip package, how would you do that? So let's say you're running requests version 3 point whatever and you want to upgrade it.
You could just like go into your requirements.txt, upgrade the version, and then just pip-env install the requirements.txt again. Or there must be some command to do the
Yeah.
single line as
Yeah, there's this thing that would kind of be a not ideal version. There's a single line pip install upgrade. Um, as a Python developer, do you know what a wheel file is?
well. Wheel file. Mm, I've heard of it, but I don't remember, honestly.
Okay. Do you know what a TOML file is?
A TOML?
Yeah.
TUML?
TOML.
No. Interesting. I've never
Okay.
encountered that.
That's interesting because that's actually a staple in the Python ecosystem for package management and configuration of packages and metadata.
I'll read it up after this.
Yeah, that would be useful to read. How big are integers in Python? What's their size?
So the maximum number is like infinity, and the biggest in the size,
The integer
I,
type, the size of the integer type.
I don't know, 8 bytes, I guess. I've never actually looked into the actual details.
Okay. Okay, so it's 4 bytes, but what's the largest Python number that I can write? The largest number in Python that I can write in a Python program. So if I do x equals, what's the biggest thing I can write?
I remember watching this neat code video. You could just put any number and it will convert it somehow magically for me.
There is an upper limit though. Do you know what the upper limit is bound by?
I'm just gonna guess 2 to the power 64.
That's actually not that big of a number
Sure.
relative to the largest number you can make. Effectively, you're bound by the amount of program memory that there is in Python. Have you heard
Okay.
of? That's because Python has something called arbitrary precision integers. Do you know what that is?
Arbitrary precision integers. No.
Okay, that's fine. Effectively, it states that you can create a number as large as you'd like. There's no bounds per se on a number like you would have in C, where there's a range of integers for a given type. Um, how would you open a file to write to in Python?
I think it's like with f open, and then you just put your file name over there, and then with is supposed to like close the resource even in case of it crashing out.
Okay. What's the difference between dunder stir and dunder repr in Python?
Dunder stir. So dunder methods are supposed to be the methods for an object when you call it. So stir is like the description, I guess, and repr is representation. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I need to brush up on dunder methods.
Okay, that's fine. Have you heard of dunder name?
These are all the technicalities of Python that I learned in my first quarter here at Masters because I never actually took a formal Python. So I kind of forgot all of it for the last 2 weeks. I don't remember this one.
What did you write at
Yeah.
Amazon though?
So it's basically Java and Python.
So you've never heard of dunder name or dunder main? Or not heard of, you don't know what dunder name is?
Is the name of the function, I'm just gonna guess.
No. How would you run, how would you define an entry point in a Python process?
If underscore underscore name equals underscore main thing. So that's used when you want to. So if you have 2 or 3 files and you want to just import certain features.
Okay, that makes more sense that you know that. Okay. If you were to write a Python package and you were to include a dunder init file in that package, what does a dunder init file do?
I don't think I've ever done that.
So you've never had to write a library in Python?
No.
Interesting. It seems like Amazon, every Amazon coder that I've talked to, it seems like they don't write much code.
So actually, the kind of code that we have to write is different from, I guess. So you're trying to talk about code where you're writing things from 0 to 1. The kind of work we did, at least I did, was not 0 to 1. It's from like 100 to 110, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. So we're adding features on top of a legacy code base. We're not actually writing things from scratch.
But I mean, I think even at large organizations, you might want to write your own custom library to do or perform X, Y, Z. So it's interesting to me that you didn't have familiarity with that.
I mean, I guess, but there are like so many things in CS that one could talk about, but I don't get a chance to touch all of it. So I'm usually just concerned with what's at hand. And I just keep my knowledge constrained to that.
Okay.
So I never had to write a package, honestly. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I wanted to I wanted to write a package for limiting the number of hours I spend on Dota 2 so that it would just quit the game after 2 games. So I was trying to write a scraping thing, and I'm gonna look up how to publish that as a
Okay.
library or something.
Let me ask you this, because that might be relevant for your Dota 2 bot. What would you do if you wanted to poll the state of programs on your game, for example, or on your computer, for example? How would you high level write a program to do that in Python?
So there's basically so the thing that I was gonna do was there's this API that I can hit dotabuff.com where you give your player's ID, so you do a request, you get a response, you'll get to know the current game that the guy is in, and then I was gonna try and create something which looks at the current processes that are running, look at dota2.exe if it's running in the background, and see if there's already been 2 games played that day. So then you just do a process kill, something along that lines.
Okay,
And
that's
then
high
I was
level.
thinking of creating it into some kind of Windows service. I've never done that before, so that it runs in the background, I guess.
Is your phone going off? You mind muting that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought that Mac would.
Let me ask you this. If you wanted to send data from one computer, one Python process to another Python process on another computer, how would you do that? Because you just mentioned potentially making a Windows server. So how would I do that? How would I send data from one process, one computer to another?
I think you use sockets for that. I've never done that before, honestly.
So at Amazon, you don't have a distributed system architecture where you're responsible for sending data from one place to another?
No, we have a distributed architecture. Most of the work is done in the cloud. So we had our own EC2 instances, but each of them did not actually, if I remember correctly, and this is 3 years old, I don't think they interacted with each other, honestly. Yeah, we had a master slave architecture, and I can't go into more details.
No, that's
Otherwise,
fine.
I'm just
That's fine.
breaking the,
Sure.
yeah.
I'm just surprised that you didn't have any. When I think of distributed systems, I think about computer A at the minimum sending information to computer B. So it's like a client server architecture. But you're talking about this like cloud computing architecture where each process is isolated to a given EC2 instance environment and they never interact with each other.
Yeah, honestly, my weak, I won't even call them weak points. It's just something I've never been interested in. Hardware, distributed systems, I've never really found an affinity towards them. it just felt honestly very boring. At risk of saying that, I never found it fun, honestly.
Interesting. It doesn't sound like you like coding much. Let me ask you this. If I was to ask you, what's the difference between dunder init and dunder new in Python?
I don't know that.
Okay. Interesting. At Amazon, what percent of your day would you say you spent coding?
That's a good question. So it depends. When I first joined the team, I'd say like most of my day was just onboarding on the stuff, learning the existing systems. And then around the month five up till month 10, it was 60% coding, new features that we want to add.
Sorry, you
And
started at month five or month at month five to month 10, 60%?
no, 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 no. For the first 3 months, it was onboarding as a new hire. Yeah. So at Amazon,
But what does that mean?
everything.
Is that like you're onboarding your 30% code? Because to me, onboarding is like you file some paperwork, you write some shit down, you like ask some dude where the bathroom is. That's onboarding for me. I don't know what's onboarding for Amazon, so just give us a bit more detail.
Sure. So onboarding at my organization was actually sitting with engineers who are working on their existing code features, trying to understand the state of the system. And the first 3 months for a new hire, you're just setting your system and you're starting to get small jobs to work upon. So like small tickets where you're like bug fixes, really small, low impact bug fixes. Around the third to fifth month, I actually started developing my own Python scripts to like automate some of the processes that these guys had. So that's what I did, honestly. And
And
then my manager really liked the project that I was working upon. So it was kind of pushed up forward.
interesting. So at that five or at that what'd you say, the 5 month mark where you started automating scripts?
No, no, no. I was automating scripts after somewhere between the 2.5 month to fifth month.
Okay. During that period, what percent of your day would you say you were spent coding?
Uh, I'd say like 50%. Yeah.
Wow. So I just want to compare that to the actual quant space. So
Okay.
just so you guys know, in quant development and software engineering in that space, onboarding is a week at most. The first day is like, where's the bathroom? What's everybody's names? Where does everybody sit? Where's the snacks? Where's the food? And here's some paperwork to make sure you get paid. That's onboarding. After the first week, like you're starting to code. Like you're getting shit sent to you. Like you're coding like 70% of the day at least. And by the 3 months, you're not just starting to automate little scripts here and there. By 3 months, your manager already knows whether he wants to keep you on board or whether or not he wants to fire you. So
Hmm.
that's kind of your trial period. Everything in FAANG just sounds so like lovey-dovey, easy. Like I don't know how to write a
Everything in
library.
FAANG is, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Everything in FAANG, from my perspective, is designed so that you don't fuck things up. Because the scale at with which these guys are operating, if some new hire comes in and just messes something and people don't actually pay attention to what's being pushed through the code review, then it actually makes an impact, tangible impact. I'm not saying that it's not the same in quant. I have no experience in quant,
It sounds
but
like as a result of that, though, that you don't learn much and you don't make as big of an impact as you probably should be as a developer.
yeah, that's why I left Amazon. That's why I don't want to be in big tech because I feel things just move too slowly. And to get something launched, I need to be in 10 different meetings with 10 different shareholders, stakeholder teams. It just feels too slow for me.
Yeah,
That's why I'm kind of moving to the startup space where things need to be done quickly. They don't matter how you get it done, but get it done, get it working.
yeah, I think you'd like quant because that's how it works a lot. Get it done, get it working, and do a good job. But you're gonna need to up your code skills a lot more. What exposure to databases do you have?
I mean, I worked with them, at Amazon we had DDB. Here at U Chicago, I took a course, databases in. I learned MongoDB for the first time. I did I did SQL. I've done SQL in undergrad as well, so yeah.
It's interesting you only talked about Mongo in your masters.
No, no, no. We talked about SQL and Mongo. I learned Mongo for the first time in my master's.
Wow, okay. So, did you ever have to write any code in Python that interacted with databases while at Amazon?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we used DynamoDB. So our Python calls were basically using the Boto 3 package to the AWS client, basically to fetch and, put back into the Dynamo database. I'm trying to remember.
What was the interview process like at Amazon for you to get in?
So I don't know how it happens in the US, but in India, we have something called placements where if you're at a good engineering college, there are companies that come to you because they want to hire those students. So Amazon came on campus at my college, and we had 4 rounds, I think. All of them were technical. There was no HR. Most of the rounds were lead code. In the third round, I remember the guy was asking a few questions about networking. I never really liked networking, but I studied for it that day, I remember.
Okay, what's the OSI model? What does the OSI model describe in networking?
Uh, OSI, I guess there are some layers, and then you're basically yeah, I don't remember.
Can you
I
name
don't
me two of the layers?
I'm just gonna guess data layer, hardware layer. I don't know.
No. Okay. So if I was to ask you what is TCP and
Transmission control protocol.
what's its characteristics? So what is it?
Uh, I remember this. They taught us this in school. TCP, UDP, UDP when you don't really care about information being lost. So I remember this with an example of like a sports match that's being streamed on TV, and then transmission was always the opposite. That's how I remembered it. So you are really stringent on how
Wow.
data should not be lost.
Okay, I think you have the normie understanding of TCP, honestly, but I don't think
Yeah,
that would
so the
be.
other day I was going through the book, the three something of OS, the one you mentioned. But
Yeah.
then I'm not really sure how I'm not so at this point in my career, I'm not sure what I should be focusing on, honestly.
Yeah, it seems like you don't even like coding, honestly. So I can't really. I heard there's a concept in India called a forced engineer. I heard that from one of my friends, where it's like you were just an engineer because somebody told you to be an engineer, and you find a lot of this stuff cool. Maybe you're set to be like the manager dude that kind of knows code, kind of doesn't know code, but knows how to be a good manager for developers. Maybe that's the course you want to take, because you said you don't like really being an individual contributor. You don't see yourself there long term. So maybe you're that type of guy that reads the news and knows what's going on and wrote some code in his youth, but maybe isn't like the cracked out dude or the dude that really cares to be cracked. So maybe that's the place you transition to. So maybe you look for like data analyst management roles in that space. But I'm going to get another person on. We have a lot of people on the call. Thanks for joining.
Okay, yeah. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.